Bobby Long live in Studio B here at WNCW, Maserati, from your fourth album, this is, Sultans, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You're right. I was reading about it, and I'm familiar with some of your previous, and a bit of difference in preparing this album.
Yeah, it was. I always try and do something a little bit different, and this, yeah, it was. We kind of took our time recording it because my wife was pregnant at the time, so I didn't want to kind of. Usually, I go to LA or Austin, you know, like wherever a producer is that I'm going to work with. I'll generally try and leave where I am, you know, just to get some space away from like reality, I guess. But this time it was we recorded in Brooklyn, which is kind of 15-20 minutes away, so it was much different. Yeah, very different to usual.
I was reading where the writing part is kind of, is it soul bearing? Is that the description that you use for when you're writing things?
Yeah, I guess so. There's some songs on this album which are things I've experienced, and there's some things which are just it's imagination based. So I'm writing about somebody else. I guess using my own experiences with writing about what other people have gone through, I guess. But yeah, it's always a little bit revealing. Even if you feel like a song isn't about you, you'll listen to it a few months later and be like, oh yeah, this must be. You can relate it to something that you were going through, even though at the time maybe you weren't.
Yeah,
you weren't aware of it. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if the listeners could tell, but you're from England, and are you still living there, or are you living over here?
No, I live in New York. Yeah, so I lived over here for like 9 years now or so. So I still feel very much English, though. Unfortunately, I guess.
You've kept a little of the accent, and so that I think that adds to the charm.
Yeah. I do that just to get free things.
Really?
Yeah, all the time. Rent and stuff like that, whisper in people's ears.
Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you here in Western North Carolina, bringing your music to us live. You're going to be in Asheville tonight, and we'll talk more about that coming up. That is Bobby Long, live with us here in Studio B at WNCW this afternoon. He is in the area for a show tonight. It's Fat Tire Friday at New Belgium Brewing Company. Isn't that something? That is something for the resume right there, brother. I played some Beatles music, or I had Sean play it for me to walk down here, and I did that, with a purpose, because I understand you were influenced quite a lot by the Beatles and Bob Dylan, and some that were before your time, actually.
Yeah. My parents, they had I don't know, they kind of crammed all that really good stuff down our throats, and so yeah, I'm a really big Beatles fan, not just musically, but kind of how they went about things, in the studio. And, it was a big thing with this record. We always try to keep in mind what they would do. Obviously, we don't have what they have, their skills and talent, whatever, but we wanted to kind of keep it as natural as possible and not be afraid to make mistakes and go for it as we were recording and leave those rough bits in. We wanted it to be as personal as possible. So that was a really big influence for us. Yeah.
Well, I think it's kind of evident on the record.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Jack Dawson is on this record with you.
Yeah,
and your producer or your sound engineer. What's his name? Dave
Lindsay.
Lindsay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, he owned the studio, Dave, where we recorded. So.
Right. Three of you guys kind of worked together producing this record?
Yeah, it really was. Like, Jack was the main... we kind of went into it. I was going to produce it with Jack, but Jack, inevitably, because they're my songs and I was the one doing most of the performing, you kind of have to give a side of that up. And I think with every record I've ever made, I've always had a hand in the production, but Jack was so great, and he knows me better than anyone musically, so he did most of the producing, but it was a real kind of team effort with the three of us, and we recorded as a three-piece. Mm-hmm. So most of the record, what you're hearing, like the kind of 60% of it is kind of a take, all of us playing live together, and then we built on it from there, So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a great experience. Really good.
Now, the album's titled Sultans, and there's Sultans 1 and Sultans 2.
Yeah.
Kind of bookends on the
Yeah,
record, right?
exactly, yeah.
What's the inspiration on that?
Yeah, well, originally that was just one song, and I don't know. I felt like it needed bookends. It needed like something. Originally, wanted it to be this like concept album, but it just didn't flow together lyrically enough to be so. You know, it wasn't. I don't know. There wasn't enough things in common for it to be so, like or a message or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So. But I wanted there to be some kind of start and end point, so we decided to kind of cut up Sultans into 1 and 2, which was obviously inspired by Sgt. Pepper, you know, because they've got Sgt. Pepper 1 and then at the end, well, not quite at the end, and yeah, we liked that idea, and we would try to come up with as many like playful things as we could for the album. You know, we wanted to keep it kind of it's not like the easiest listening album. I think it's something that it needs to grow on you and things like that. Those little kind of cheekiness and like those nice little funny little ideas, I think, kind of enable you to hang with it for long enough for it to make an impression.
I didn't find a dull moment in it.
Oh, thank you. No, I don't think there is. I just think.
But right, I know what you're saying.
But I also, you know, for me, my favorite way of listening to music is listening to an album. And that's obviously becoming less and less. People are doing that less and less. It's more about singles. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Generally, obviously, I think there's a lot of great people still just listen to albums and buy them. But and I felt like that would make people want to listen to the whole thing as well, start to finish. You know.
Some argue that doing it the singles route,
Mm-hmm.
well before you ever put a whole project, it may be helpful financially and publicity-wise for the artist.
Yeah.
I don't know, folks.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't think there's a right or wrong way anymore. And for me, I love making albums. That's what I really love doing. I could release 4 singles next week, but that just wouldn't. It just wouldn't cut it for me. That doesn't feel like a full piece of work, you know. And
you like to go in and
I like to go in and then do it.
Go through the album.
Exactly. Live it, breathe it, and then be like, I'm done next. You know what I mean?
Do you feel like that gives it more continuity when you go in a straight line kind of, or a little wiggly line? That's most albums.
Yeah, totally. I also feel it just gives, it just enables me to move on from it. You know, move on from those collection of songs. Because I'm always writing, so I've got a lot of songs. So an album's done and I put it away, then I can start writing the next set. You know what I mean? It like tells me when that time is dead.
Right.
Look forward, you know.
Right. That soulful voice is Bobby Long here in Studio B, WNCW this afternoon. He's with us here now, and he will be at New Belgium Brewing in Asheville this evening for Fat Tire Friday. That sounds like a fun thing to me.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait.
I haven't gotten to go to one of those yet.
Oh, man.
And they are supporters of the radio station, and I sure
really?
appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, seem like really good people. I'm really excited about it.
So the video for Nautical, just out. It is available out there, right?
Yeah, it came out yesterday.
I know it came to me, but it doesn't always mean that everybody can see it, so everybody can see it.
Yeah, it just got premiered yesterday on Billboard.
What was that like, putting that together?
It was exhausting, and it made me never want to make a video ever again. No, I loved it, and a friend of ours directed it, a guy called Arthur Douglas, and he was great, but it's just hard work. Like, to film 10 seconds of film, you think that should take 10, maybe 20 seconds, but it would take like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And we were filming out in this farm, and it was freezing, and it was just hard work. It's hard work acting because you can't fake it, you know. But it was a really great experience overall, and I'd love to do it again. And it came out I was really pleased with how it came out. I don't like music videos, but it felt like we did something a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Feels honest to you.
Yeah,
you seem like a guy that likes that in your music and everything you create.
Yeah, definitely. It was. I really wanted to play up. You know, I thought it was really great that we put Jack's name on the album, even though they're my songs. Jack is just really important to me musically, and I feel like we're gonna have a working relationship. again in the future, and we're going to do another album together. So I love that he was on. His name is on the album, the album artwork and everything, and will hopefully get some credit. But and I also wanted to play up with that relationship on the music video, because I play this like weird, crazy psycho, and I capture him and like force him to play in my group to like in this weird barn, and he ends up escaping, and I try and catch him. And I thought that it's really weird, but I thought it kind of played up to our relationship a little bit.
Kind of. I was going to say, did he say, "Wow, this is just like real life"?
Well, it was. We were saying the whole day is me just berating him and like hugging him and like chaining him up, and then we had to drive home together in the car, and that was weird. It was very weird because we were both still fully dressed in our clothes because it was so cold. We were like, "Oh, let's just get back into the city," and so we drove back in our costumes. So it was just, it was weird. Yeah.
I want to ask you too. You seem to be a guy who's not only in songwriting but in literature as well. You have kind of an appetite for literature. I understand you, Dylan Thomas was somebody who had an effect on you.
Yeah, it was more my teacher actually. When I was at school, and I just for some reason I just liked poetry, and I think it started with when I was younger. My parents, my nan bought me like a A.A. Milne poetry book.
Yeah,
and there was one of my dad's favorites is a guy called Spike Milligan who's in the Goonies. He did the Goon Show, not the Goonies. He wrote this like comedic children's poetry book. So I was always like loved how words rhymed. And then I told my teacher when I was like 14, and I think I wrote an essay. It was like you could write an essay about anything, and I wrote about poetry. And I definitely got smacked around the head for it by somebody in my class. And but my teacher gave me a Dylan Thomas book, and yeah, that was really important because I was like, oh God, like people do this for a living,
right? Oh, you've published some poetry, haven't you?
Yeah, I've done like 2 books, which have been really fun to do. So yeah,
poetry for you, kind of a different compartment than writing songs. Or is it the same?
Yeah, it's just like a creative outlet. I would never call myself a poet or anything like that. I feel like I'm a songwriter, but it's just nice doing something a bit different, you know.
Some disagree that they say songwriters are poets too, and I there's different opinions about that as well.
Yeah, I just think that with songs you're working within a time frame, and you're held down to a lot of different things. Well, I think in poetry you can, it's literally it's like a blank canvas. You can do whatever you like.
Sure,
you can just do a pinprick, or you could do this elaborate painting, whatever. It's the same with words, but poetry's a bit more freeing. Bit more like
unless
jazz.
You make yourself a slave to all that meter and everything.
Yeah, and I definitely do that.
Do you?
Yeah, I definitely do sometimes. But I don't know. For me, it was just like a great way of like getting just being creative and getting more stuff off my chest. So when I came to write more songs, I was a bit more clinical rather than heavy. Because when I was, I'm 32 now. 33, and like 10 years ago when I first did my book, I was just awash with, I'd just write all day long, and it would just not saying it's any good now, but it was just in pure enthusiasm, and I'm getting a bit, it just helped me like contain my thoughts a little bit better, and it's great like having a published book or two,
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yes, it is. That is Bobby Long here on WNCW live in Studio B. Venice from the new album Sultans. I've never been to Venice either, but
yeah.
you kind of took me there.
I kind of went once, but not to like it was a school trip, and they kind of took us to the weird like mainland part, which looks like Miami, and it's not quite as romantic. So I kind of wrote that song about that.
Until Miami, we said that.
Yes.
Anyway, Bobby Long is live tonight at Fat Tire Friday at New Belgium Brewing in Asheville. The video for Nautical is out there, and folks can find that and see it if they'd like to. And let's see. Let me make sure I get your website right, too.
Oh, sure.
MusicBobbyLong.com? Is that the...
Info. Yeah. No. Actually, no. You're right. It's MusicBobbyLong.com is one. That's like a fan-run site, and there's bobbylong.info is my
Oh, okay.
one. But either one, to be honest.
And you're on all the social media platforms as well,
Yeah, Facebook.
as
Twitter,
most
Instagram.
musicians are.
Yeah, it's awful, but
It's
I don't
it's
like
a time-consuming mess, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it really is. Yeah, I'm just not very good at it. You know?
Me either.
Terrible.
Thank goodness we have Vicky Dameron over here who takes care of a lot of that stuff for
Oh,
us
yeah.
here at the station.
It's
So
brilliant.
anyway, Bobby, thanks so much for coming in today
Thank you.
and sharing with us here in Studio B. And
very
have a great
much.
show tonight.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
Again, New Belgium Brewing Company in Asheville tonight. And it looked like the start time was like at 5:30. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's an early one because the place closes early. I
Oh,
think.
okay.
So it's kind of cool.
Okay. See, there I am, ignorant again.
No, you're doing great.
Thanks again, brother.